Hello, hello! Welcome to another episode of Prehistory in the Dark. I am your host, Darkness the Curse. And before we begin, as always, thank you so much to my generous patrons and my channel members of our sister channel, History in the Dark. I've decided I'm not going to announce the names of the channel members on a different channel when I'm on this channel, because if I start getting channel members over here as we grow, then I have to announce both of them on both channels, and it's just going to get confusing. And what if someone becomes a member of both channels? Do I say their name twice? Because otherwise I won't be getting a bang for their buck. It's just really confusing. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. I'll go back to doing it if you guys think that's fair. It's really up to the members at this point, but I think, logically speaking, it makes more sense to keep the channel members on their respective channels in terms of announcements. I'm still going to list them in the credits, though, because I don't think that's unreasonable. And today we're going to discuss my favorite dinosaur ever, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I know is a super de-duper basic answer, but I can't not love the Rex. It's one of the largest land predators in the history of the world, and it's just so cool. So cool, with the teeth and the tiny arms and the big ol' head. I would like to pet them, but I feel like that'd be a terrible decision. But we're going to discuss today the intelligence of the T-Rex. Something that people don't really consider about them, and I feel like it needs to be brought up. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is a species of theropod dinosaur that lived in the Upper Cretaceous period about 68 to 66 million years ago. They're the last known member of the tyrannosaurids, prior to the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event that wiped out all non-avian dinosaurs. As theropods, they were bipedal, and they were carnivores. For a long time, some paleontologists wanted to argue that the Tyrannosaurus was actually a scavenger, not a predator. But there's way more evidence suggesting it was a predator. Its teeth, for example, are angled back to hold struggling prey in their mouths. They're also incredibly bulky creatures, indicating that they were very good in a fight. And since their prey at the time would have consisted of Triceratops and Ankylosaurus, both creatures very capable of defending themselves, it makes sense that the apex predator would have to be built to take them on. It's probably worth saying that they likely would have scavenged if they found the opportunity. I mean, even if a pride of lions walks up to a fresh kill, it's not unheard of for them to scavenge a little bit. So the notion of Tyrannosaurus doing this isn't unlikely, it probably did happen, but the notion that they would be exclusive scavengers is a little ridiculous. For many years in the paleontological community, it was thought that dinosaurs were big, stupid lizards, not being smart enough to survive for any length of time. But to be realistic, dinosaurs inhabited a period of time much longer than we have. They were around for millions of years. They're one of the most successful types of creatures in the history of the world. And they were incredibly varied, some likely being incredibly intelligent. And to be honest, the T-Rex is probably one of the smartest ones. Its senses were incredibly good. It had forward-facing eye sockets that gave it good binocular vision, and very large olfactory bulbs and olfactory nerves relative to their brain size, which would have given them an insane sense of smell. They also had very long cochlea, which is related to hearing, meaning that they could also hear extremely well too. Their bite force was ludicrous. A study in 2012 by Carl Bates and Peter Falkingham found that a Tyrannosaurus had the most powerful bite of any terrestrial animal that has ever lived. An adult Tyrannosaur could have exerted as much as 35,000 to 57,000 newtons of force in the back teeth. That translates to roughly between 8,000 and 13,000 pounds of force. Easily enough to crush large bones. Long story short, if a Tyrannosaur bit you, you weren't getting out of its jaws, which might explain why its arms were so small. It didn't really need them. Evolutionarily speaking, if you look at relatives of the Tyrannosaur, you can see in many cases the arms were considered not necessary. Over time, the arms largely became superficial, as theropod predators started relying more on their faces than anything else. An interesting way of doing things, but to be fair, modern birds rely a lot on their beaks too for combat, so it actually makes a lot of sense. But the brain is something more interesting about tyrannosaurs, as it is considered incredibly large by dinosaur standards. Whenever you're judging brain size, you have to consider the size of the animal too, as a brain has to be a little bit larger in order to handle all the regulatory issues of a larger body. But relative to its body size, it had the largest brain of all adult non-avian dinosaurs, with the sole exception of three others: Bamboraptor, Troodon, an ornithomimus. This would indicate an animal that was not just off of instinct, but could actually calculate. Estimating brain size is difficult with prehistoric creatures because we don't know exactly how their brains would have been laid out. There's many things we don't even know about our own brains, so it's hard to say how smart exactly a tyrannosaur would have been, but given the size, it implies a creature that was not just good at hunting, but very good at hunting. It might be able to even calculate and plan an attack rather than just go off of instinct. It actually does make me appreciate Jurassic Park's portrayal of the T-Rex as a creature that is capable of more complex thoughts that we usually give dinosaurs credit for. When the T-Rex breaks out in Jurassic Park, she doesn't just tear into everything instinctually. She's curious. She's thinking. She's looking around, trying to get her bearings, seeing what the heck is even out here. And in The Lost World, the T-Rex couple was shown as having complex parenting skills, not just being able to hunt down their kidnapped infant, but also know not to attack the trailers until their infant was safe. I'm referencing Hollywood movies here, but the truth is, based off of scientific evidence, it's likely that the T-Rex may have been capable of this level of thought. They're not just monstrous beasts of violence, they may have been able to reason and make decisions to a certain degree. I'm not saying they were geniuses by any stretch of the imagination, but many large predators even nowadays in the mammalians, such as lions, tigers, bears, have fairly large brains, and are capable of making some level of decision-making when it comes to knowing when to attack and to run away. And we know that many mammals, like lions, rear their young and are actually very good, loyal parents. Given their success and coupling it with the idea that the T-Rex was around for millions of years, it stands to reason that the Rex was also capable of some decision-making here. How much exactly? Well, unless we have a time machine or cloning technology, we'll probably never know for sure. But it's nice to think about, and it's nice to think that the T-Rex not only is one of the most famous dinosaurs ever, but was probably a lot smarter than people who write mean YouTube comments. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.